Hello, and welcome to Crusader Kings 2. I've seen some requests for a newbie-friendly gameplay where a lot of the decision-making and, the interface and things like that are explained a little more. So, I'm going to do the stereotypical Crusader Kings thing and start at 1066 in Ireland. I've turned all of the mods off except for the Sunset Invasion one, because that one's fun and it'll kind of expose you to maybe some extra big threats, because I usually play with defensive packs off. That's a personal flavor thing, but you can do these rules however you want. Just make sure that if you're going for achievements, that Iron Man mode is enabled and achievements are still enabled, because you can change things where it'll discontinue your achievements. So like if you go to defensive packs, you can turn those on and off. I prefer them off, but it maintains your achievements. Well, if you go to, I think, like du jour drift and stuff like that, I'm learning some of these you can actually turn off more than I thought. There we go. It'll actually block out the choice, and then it'll say down here that achievements are disabled. So, I'm going to load one of my rule sets. So defensive packs off, Aztec invasion delayed random, Mongol invasion delayed random. Delayed random means that it'll occur after the year 1000, so now, or 50 years after the game has started. So for the 1066 date, it's at, 1116 is the earliest they can invade. If you buy the Charlemagne or Old Gods DLC, you can actually start at earlier start dates, and this 1,000-year buffer is more necessary, because at this start date it kind of seems redundant, but there are a lot of fun DLCs that I would recommend. But let's just hop right into it. Let's call it tutorial. I don't know, how else to phrase it. It's trying to teach you guys how to play the game. So, first off, we are playing as an Irish Catholic king. You can hold castles, forts, and hospitals without penalties. If this is stuff that you guys need to read, you can always pause it. It's really helpful for when you're first trying to learn the game. This tells you what you can and can't do. And if you want to play something outside of a Catholic Irish king, you can, it'll tell you what's different and what you can and can't do. But for no mods, you can usually only start as Catholic feudal government. So down here by your mini-map, these are all different views. I prefer to keep it on realm view because it shows nice pretty borders versus the terrain, which is less helpful. But then you can also see things like where the different religions are, where the different cultures are, and you can mess with stuff like that. So as you conquer land, religion and culture conversion is a big part. But let's just hop into it. Started off with a pretty poorly educated king, and my heir is just about as good, so that's awesome. Both pretty young. I don't think the age changes between starts, but education and traits I think do change, or at least the base values. But up here in these little bubbles, it'll tell you important things that you need to try and fix. So the game starts on pause, and you can pause at any time you want. But first things first, let's marry off. I'm gonna probably go for stewardship for my wife, and she's 24, so she's a breedable woman. Welsh is okay, and I think she belongs to this family here. So yeah, so we can get a non-aggression pact with him as well, which is good. So I'll send that marriage off, and so actually let me go back and explain this. I'll do it when I do my son. So, there's 5 traits for everybody. You have diplomacy, martial, stewardship, intrigue, and learning. Learning is probably the least important of them. It affects how fast your piety generates. Intrigue helps with spying and assassinating and things like that. Stewardship is how much money you generate, and it also affects how many holdings you can have. So higher stewardship, the more property you can directly own. Excuse me. So martial depends on, if you lead the actual army, how strong your army is and how many troops you can get from your counties. And then diplomacy is important for kings and high people because it adds a relationship bonus with your vassals and how many vassals you can have. So you see here, base of 1, king rank times 10, ruler diplomacy, I get an extra vassal, and then 10 because of the laws that I have. So theoretically I could have 21 vassals even though I don't have land for that. So, I married off my ruler, or I will attempt to once I unpause it. The actual marriage thing will go through. Picking a good spouse is important because half of their values for the 5 traits add to your husband. So when I get married, my state diplomacies and stuff like that will add her half of her values. So generates more money if she has a high stewardship, stuff like that. So for my son, I'll probably also do stewardship. But she's ambitious and she doesn't have that high of an intrigue. But if she wants to kill me, I probably could. So let's look at age. We can also search by traits. So if we want to go genius, there's no geniuses. Strong, quick, and attractive. Nope. Alright, so those are the 4 genetic traits that you can actually breed into your dynasty, and they weren't available, so I can't do that. But 18 for her, my son's 18, decent traits, so we'll probably go with this girl. And so those first 2 are now taken care of. Pick an ambition. These are basically your missions or mini goals or whatever. So the first one is to get married, because I already have the marriage request out. As soon as I unpause, that'll come in and I'll get a free 10 piety. So that's awesome. I can designate a regent. Probably someone with high stewardship or martial that likes me. You don't always have to do this. Most of the time I don't, but just for ease, you can click on it and it shows all these secondary titles. Another way to get to it is if you hit this council button. You have your major council members and then your minor titles. I don't know who to name. I don't think I'm going to name anyone right now because it doesn't matter. But usually, name important dynasty members that are not ambitious, because if they're ambitious, they'll probably kill you, and then they get to rule. So that's a bad thing. But let's start off with fabricate a claim on Osireg. By the way, not Irish or speak Gaelic, so butchering all of Ireland because I'm American and that's what we're known for. I'm going to train troops in the only county I can. This allows me to have a bigger levy and the levy replenishes quicker. Stewardship, I'm going to have him collect taxes so I can get more money. And then I'm going to steal technology using my spy. Don't steal from the Pope, because if he catches you, he gets mad at you, and if he gets mad at you, you can actually be excommunicated, and that's not good. So let's go with Salerno. And then speaking of, improve relation with, you can do it with the Pope. I think you can do it with try this guy. I think it only does it with the vassals, though. I really should know this. I usually just send him to the Pope and don't care, but now that I'm trying to teach, I'm thinking of things that I'm like, I wonder if I actually know that. So, you might get a clip right about now that says, I was wrong. I was wrong. It only works on religious vassals. So, now that most of these things are taken care of, we can unpause it, and there's 5 varying speeds. Starting out, I would say keep it at level 2. Maybe if you really need 3, don't go above 4, because things start to pop up really quick, but you can pause it at any time, so it's not a horrible thing. So, I have just been married off, and I would take the extra 10 gold, and then my father-in-law I can form an alliance with. No, he's concerned. That's probably good. I was going to try and use his armies to win wars. But now that that ambition is filled, I can pick a new one. So, I think I am going to try and have a daughter, because it's important to expand your dynasty. When your dynasty ends, you lose the game. It's also important to try and keep track of your dynasty members. So, these are really the most important ones, because I think everyone else is dead. So, we got a guy there, and then you got an aunt who's married off, no longer part of the family. Here, you can actually filter. So, the first one filters all childless women, filters unlanded characters that have no children, and dead characters. So, here are the important ones. Oh, there we go. So, cousin, got 2 guys here, a guy there. So, let's see if any of them could be married off. Now, you can actually let this trickle through time on 1 or 2 while you do this kind of stuff, just so game progresses. But I am going to upgrade my castle walls. This is why I took the coin from the first marriage, is because you can upgrade your castle walls. And it increases your army size and gives you a little bit of money. It's, in my opinion, probably one of the first things you should do. Because it also ups your defense. So if they try and assault your castle, they take more losses. Or if they try and siege it down, I think it takes longer. So, let's click that. It's my son getting married off. And then, let's go to my half-brother. See, he's got 2 kids. Is this one not of my dynasty? No, they're both of my dynasty. Why is only the one showing up? He must have gotten filtered out. Because there's a whole bunch of kinsmen here that I'm not seeing. So, this guy's got a lisp. He's content though, so he's good to have around. Let's marry him to an older woman, because we don't need more dynasty members. We've got plenty. But we want... I don't know if we can forge any alliances with him. But let's see, actually. So our marshal just initiated recruitment, which means we'll fill our levies pretty quickly. Let's look at this guy. He's got decent troops. Okay, so I am going to switch as soon as I'm able from making a claim to improving relationships. Hey, my wife is pregnant. Oh, so when you pick this ambition, have a daughter or have a son, you get a shadow plus 25% fertility buff, which is really good. So if you're starting off, especially in the earlier start dates, if you decide to buy DLCs, you start with very small dynasties. Or if you play with mods like Shattered Earth or Shattered World, where everything's just counties or duchies, then, you know, you start off with just you, so you try and marry and grow your dynasty as quickly as possible. But that extra fertility bonus is really nice. But what was I gonna say? Oh, my current goal. So, if you're playing as Mumu, you have the majority of a duchy. And so you have these three, and you actually start with the duchy title, which is really important because that means you can declare war on this guy for the title, assuming you can win, of course. So I've got a little over 900 troops available to me if I raise my vassals and have my army at full strength, which it's not quite there yet. Meanwhile, he is at 781. His max is around 800. So, my half-brother wants to be married off. So, we will pick the Princess of Norway. Sounds pretty good. So I'll tell him I'll find him someone nice. Okay, that was quick. So, in the 1066 start, it's very true to history. Norway and France start at war with England. This is the Battle of Hastings. And so, Norway starts with like 11,000 men here, and Normandy starts with, I think, 11 or 12,000 men here, and he has to ship them over. It's been a while since I've done it. But there's big brawl for England at the moment, and depending on how that goes can affect your game, because literally the Duchy of Normandy, England, and all of Norway can be under Norway's control if things play out that way. Most of the time Normandy gets England and then beats Norway, so you just have England with a little bit of France. But be watchful, because there can be a giant nation erupt over there. Okay, so a talented artist proposes to paint an iconic portrait of me. I don't want to disrespect the dynasty, because that could be bad, although none of them own titles or are rebellious or anything like that. So it's not terrible, but it's only 4 coins, and the 25 prestige can be nice. So we're going to go with that. I guess I should talk about your resources. So, up in the top corner, you've got gold, which is by far the most important, because everyone cares about gold. Prestige, which is mostly useless, but I think it adds a couple diplomatic bonuses to vassals and stuff like that. But for the most part, it's just your score. And then piety, very similar. You can spend it on some things. Creating titles takes piety, depending on the level. I think duchies are 100 and kingdoms are 200. So if I hit de jure and Kingdom of Ireland, it is 200 piety. And depending on where you are, from 0 to 1,000 piety is how much it costs to create titles. So you want to be fairly pious up until you get 1,000, and then you can kind of do whatever you want. But as a Catholic, your piety from vassals, you can see there is 0.088. So as you have more bishops and stuff like that are super pious and have buildings, you get a little bit of bonuses. But for the most part, it's coming from my traits, my learning skill, and then because I'm content. Which, as a ruler, you want ambitious, but you want your vassals to have content. Alright, so I just had a son, which is not a daughter, so that sucks. Also, I have Gavelkind succession, which makes it extra suck. Alright, and you can also name him what you want. But I just decided to name him Donna Chad because I don't care about him. So, as soon as you have kids, assign a guardian. And he's a second son, which means I want him to be a soldier so I can kill him off or do whatever. He's less important.